Hello there, you're watching The Pulse on the JoyNews channel. We are live on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 144. I am Blessed Sogah. This is The Pulse, and coming up this afternoon, I have nothing to hide. Embattled Secretary to the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, Charles Bisu, denies wrongdoing as Special Prosecutor Kisi Ejabin commences investigations into allegations that he used his public portfolio for private gains. This afternoon, we hear from Charles Bisu, who says he's had enough.
All I'm saying is that Professor Fumpomwati, if he's got nothing to hide, he should come out, because enough of Charles Bisu, and then where I know that I've done nothing wrong, my job was to actually serve my nation, and I did it to the best of my knowledge, and I was vilified and all that, but I kept mute.
And don't forget that we're keeping the fight against illegal mining on here at JoyNews as we continue with our campaign with the hashtag No to Galamsey. My special guest for today is founder of the United Front Party, Akwesi Adai Odike, a man who's famed for his hard stance against the degradation of our environment. He's coming up right here on The Pulse. Also, we are asking that question: what's the future looking like for the free senior high school policy? Senior Presidential Advisor Yao Safumafo says government is still negotiating with the IMF to avoid a possible withdrawal of the flagship program.
There is any sector that we should not touch the expenditure. That sector is education.
There's been a long silence. We hear from Yao Safumafo shortly, and founder and leader of the Heaven Way Church, Patricia Siedwa, popularly known as Nana Agrada, denied bail by an Accra Circuit Court after she was arrested in connection with allegations of defrauding some members of her church. We have details coming up, plus hear from some experts here on The Pulse. The Pulse is always on JoyNews. Is brought to you by Global Communities Digni Lu Affordable Safe Sanitation. Remember, this afternoon we're streaming live on YouTube, and all of our social media handles is at JoyNews on TV. I am Blessed Sogah. Thanks for choosing us. We'll return with the details shortly. This afternoon, we start off with the fight against illegal mining. I have nothing to hide. Well, that's the reaction from the embattled Secretary to the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, Charles Bisu, as Special Prosecutor Kisi Ejabin commences investigations into allegations that he used his office for private gains. Well, the Special Prosecutor himself, Kisi Ejabin, has earlier today giving explanations in a press release that Charles Bisu is amongst a tall list of public officials being probed in connection with his broad stroke search into illegal small-scale mining. Well, I've been putting a few questions to Charles Bisu himself, and on matters relating to calls for a probe into the allegations that he used his office for private gain. Well, the embattled Secretary to the Interministerial Committee, which has now been dissolved, told me that he had absolutely nothing to hide.
Well, to speak, this should tell you that I have nothing to hide whatsoever. But my bone of contention is the chairman of the committee, because I've seen the president going back and forth. He and I were entrusted with a certain job. We're given the mandate to actually do so. I've never had Professor Fumpomwati come out to say something. And I think that for them, the adults, they should leave something for us, the next generation, to actually hold on to. And I'm not seeing that from Professor Fumpomwati, because 500 excavators and all that, that statement was reckless, and it wasn't true.
I recall at the time when all of this started, you stepped aside for investigations to be carried out. We're not sure if that is conclusive.
What wasn't conclusive?
What exactly were you told? I mean, after that whole event, what decision did the president take on this? Because at least that's not public to us, so we're not too sure of what may have happened.
That's not the crux of this discussion. The crux of it is that the police did their investigation and exonerated me. the special prosecutor carried out its investigations as well. But I feel that, for example, the former special prosecutor, Martin Amitu, he owes the country a duty of care as well, because the investigations that he carried out, I believe that he came out, and the statement that I issued yesterday, he said that there was an issue of identity, and at that time, he actually invited everybody. So I would wish to see the handover report that he gave to the new special prosecutor, who was the lawyer for Anas in that matter. You get my point. So all I'm saying is that the chairman of the committee, everybody, the job that we were given, okay, we were supposed to ensure that we sanitize it. So I owe a duty of care to my nation. He owes a duty of care. He came out to say that 500 excavators of the economy, which wasn't true. And you realize that I issued a statement yesterday that in 2019, when he came out to talk about 500 excavators, I wrote to him. I didn't go public and copied all the members of the committee. If I had anything to hide, I wouldn't have even written to him. And I shared that letter yesterday. All I'm saying is that Professor Fupomwa, if he's got nothing to hide, should come out, because enough of Charles Bishop, and then where I know that I've done nothing wrong, my job was to actually serve my nation, and I did it to the best of my knowledge, and I was vilified and all that, but I kept mute. Now, the NDC are milking the situation because somebody mentioned 500 excavators, which in fact wasn't true. It wasn't true. You understand? So if Professor Fupomwa knows that he hasn't been negligent, then he comes out to say, if he's negligent, come back, apologize to the nation, and say that there was nothing like 500 excavators, which I did explain yesterday. And also all the things that are happening in the country, because the whole integrity of the interministerial committee was tainted. And he, as the chairman that I worked with, knew that I did nothing. At a point, he came out to say that Charles Bishop was the one and who did certain things and all that, and I wasn't expecting that from him. And you realize I kept mute, because the most important thing was not about being on Professor Fupomwa. It was about our nation, that the right thing must be done. So if Charles Bishop was going to be sacrificed for our water bodies to be clean, and then people to have the mining sector to be sent, then so be it. But I've waited for years and it's not happening. And I think I need to come out to clear my name well. And now everything that I know, I have come out to speak it, because I've sat back and watched what is actually happening, and nobody's coming out to say the truth pertaining to the Anas issue. Anas never came out with any video. Everything was orchestrated for my party people and all that, which is fine. But I'm saying that this issue of Galamsey, you understand, if it needs to be solved, we shouldn't give the NDC the mileage to even talk, because the roadmap that Professor Fupomwa led as chairman, and me, the secretary, and 10 cabinet ministers to put together, I think is the solution.
So if you say that, the NDC will come at you because they would say you're setting double standards. Your flag bearer at the time, now President of the Republic, made it a political matter. So clearly, you can tell that it will continue to be a political issue going into the next elections, and that's why, of course, as a political party, they would capitalize on it. I'm interested now in the issue about the police report. How about making excerpts of it and the portions that exonerate you public? Are you open to that?
Sorry.
Charles, I'm just, yes, I'm talking about the aspect, the need to make the public, the police report public, portions of it that exonerate you. Exactly what are the details? Because these are just matters we are hearing of in the public.
No, I don't think that's the crux of the matter, really, because the police exonerated me. You, as the fourth estate of the realm, you can also write to the police and get your findings. You understand?
Yeah, but you are telling me, I'm taking your word for it. You're telling me that the Ghana Police Service exonerated you. What was captured in that investigation? You'll be challenged to that, isn't it?
To what?
As to what exactly the police position was on the matter.
No, the police report said I did not circumvent any procedures, and then basically exonerating me. Anas never came forward with the videos that were expected from him and all that. So basically, the police went out.
And you're sure this is contained in the document you're referring to?
Exactly, yes. It's been shared. It's public knowledge. I wrote to the police and got a copy from it. So I'm still asking you to do the same thing.
Yes, and Charles, that's where many believe you would be helping the public if you put that out. I guess it ends the debate, isn't it?
And I don't think it's been out over a year now. The police report was out in 2019. It came out last year, and it was all over, and everybody knew that I've been exonerated. Now, the special prosecutor, Martin Amidu, he did all his investigations. So he can ask him too. I've written about 4 petitions then to them for them to come out with it. I don't know the handover that he did, but at the time that we wrote to them, I realized I heard that in the IPA report, he came out to say that there is an issue of identity. That's the guy who came to record and all that. But at this point in time, the water bodies, those are the indicators. Those are the things that the Ghanaian is looking for. And I'm saying that the committee was formed by the president to deal with the specific that we owe a duty of care to the Ghanaian public. So me, the secretary, if anything at all, I should be jubilating and saying that, okay, because Charles was kicked out and everything, these things were plotted against me, whatever was happening, I should be happy. But I'm thinking about the next generation. And that is the fact that something like that was done to me doesn't mean that I should sit and look and watch things happening, because it's a 4-year term for the president and the elections. Okay. And we are in the second term now. So there's a certain legacy that we have to leave for the president and everyone else that's set in the government. I don't want my name to be attached to corruption. I don't want the presidency to attach to corruption. If it is true, then it is. But it wasn't true. So we've created something to exist. And I've been saying that we, as a member of the committee, the secretary, and Professor Propos, we owe a duty of care. And that 500 excavators that was mentioned, we never had it. And the statement I brought out yesterday testifies that.
In fact, Charles, because we don't have all of the time, let me round off with you on 2 issues. I'll ask you about your colleague in the NPP, Chairman Wuntumi. He's come up. But before that, would you call for an independent probe by the Office of the Special Prosecutor into all of the names and appointees that have come up as a way of clearing the names, if indeed they are clean as you're pointing us to?
Which names?
All the appointees mentioned by the NDC as having involved themselves in some way of a sort in activities of illegal mining.
In my introduction, I said that they'll propagate it, they'll use it, and you know the situation. Any citizen who feels that something should go to the special prosecutor can write to the special prosecutor to do that. For me, I have Martin Amidu. I went before him several times. I gave my statement. Anybody who was supposed to be invited was invited. So I think we need to look at it individually. But what I'm trying to say is that the NDC are actually coming on a premise without facts.
Well, so that's excerpts of my interaction with Charles Bisu, of course, throwing out the challenge to the special prosecutor to go ahead with a probe and giving clear indications that Martin Amidu, his predecessor, obviously began some work and was closing in on investigations relating to the missing excavators. Well, let's broaden the conversation, because here at JoyNews, we're continuing with our campaign with the hashtag No to Galamsey. And that's why I want to bring in my special guest for today, founder of the United Front Party, UFP, Kwesi Adai Odike, a man who's famed for his hard stance against the degradation of our environment. Odike, welcome to JoyNews.
Thank you.
Let's start off with the announcement we're hearing of from the Office of the Special Prosecutor. He says that he will go ahead and not just probe Charles Bisu and the issues relating to missing excavators, but now we're learning that it looks like there'll be a broad stroke into the entire illegal small-scale mining area. What's your take on the decision by the Special Prosecutor to commence some probe into all of these happenings?
Thank you once again. Our party is United Progressive Party.
Okay, yeah.
Point of correction.
Right.
I don't think my interest is who does that and who did wrong or who did right. Where we've gotten to now, I was expecting the president to take a fact-finding working day to go and ascertain the level of destruction at this Galamsey site. then you will get the reality and deal with it. Look, we are doing a politics and blame game with this matter, but prosecution can wait whilst we put a permanent stop.
That's a controversial view you hold there, that the special prosecutor holds on with the investigations. But some say we need to first of all probe what happened in the past, and then that would inform the way forward.
Yes.
You feel we'll be spending too much energy if we go ahead to
Of
probe?
course, no. We can do it alongside finding lasting solutions to the problems at stake. If I were to be the president, I would have gone use my executive instrument to put a temporary ban on the illegal activities, because we don't know at this point who is doing the legal mining or illegal mining. Somebody will take license to go and mine legally. They end up doing the same thing like the illegal miners. So we don't have mechanism to control their activities on site. The minister, everybody's in Accra here. And when they give the permit, they don't have supervisory mechanism to ensure that sanity prevails at the Galamsey site. So if we don't have the technology to reclaim the land, to do the right thing, I think for now, the president has to come out with executive instrument to put
a stop or a complete ban on small-scale mining?
Every form of surface mining, because all of them has messed up.
That's quite extreme, you agree? And many say that will take us way back to 2018 when the fight started, a reason for which we set up, for instance, the Inter-Ministerial Committee Against Illegal Mining. The roadmap was published, and that's where we are now. So why not focus on that beautiful document that was put out by the Inter-Ministerial Committee and implement the roadmap? You want us to go back?
Yes, all these fine ideas are in the books. But in reality, it is not there's no correspondence. We are not getting results. All the fine things in our books are there in theory. But in practice, here we are, these illicit miners are expanding their scope. If care is not taken...
I'll give you some credits on the parts that, yes, the evidence, just as we've done through Distraction for Gold, illegal mining continues. Yet you agree that government has done quite a considerable number of initiatives that's targeted at sanitizing the system. They talk about the community mining initiative and some other forms of reform and alternative livelihood programs that they've run, which government says is all targeted at sanitizing the system. So if you're saying that entirely everything is on the books, you're not painting the accurate picture, are you?
But are we getting the results? All these fine storages that is in our books, just like you said, the roadmap, are we getting the results? We need results. And have you ever heard the president visiting these areas to ascertain the extent of destruction? So the approach, to me, it's not the best.
You've been really hard on President Akufo-Addo and his fight against illegal mining. Some say it's beginning to be personal. For instance, over the weekend, you said that the president had gone to engage, quote, stakeholders in Galamsey. Those were your words. It's unfair to the president knowing that he's put his presidency on the line for this, right?
And what are we seeing? And when he was in this forum in Kumasi, to me, not one single word of commitment was delivered by the president. All the presentation he made was just lamenting. There wasn't any solution. There wasn't. There wasn't an iota of commitment to deal with the menace. And these people are advancing their cause because they know a lot of people are talking. So they understand that in a very shortest possible time, maybe the activities will come to a halt. So whilst we are dragging, they are also expanding their nefarious activities.
Give me an idea of what it is that you're expecting the president to do when he went to Kumasi over the weekend.
I was expecting that. Look, Nanano, I want to put a legislation that will ban surface mining because we don't have the technology. Look,
So that's the only thing the president didn't get.
That is one.
Okay.
Then I was expecting that he will have also hammered on reclamation, how we are going to deal with the distractions and the pollution of our water bodies. Any technology that we can deploy to, bring back our forest reserves back to its previous glory. All these things were things that we were expecting that, look, whatever has happened, let us find a way to reclaim the land and plant trees to restore the reserves back to its original state. All these things were missing. So are you telling me the president went to Kumasi on a serious mission? No.
But it's a serious mission, isn't it? When we see the president, for instance, go out, engage the MMDCs, those, at the very decentralized levels, you agree that the president cannot be everywhere at every time. So he has representatives, and these DCs, ahead of the various district security councils and, of course, municipal security councils, they've failed to act, and so the president comes to say, I'll deal with you. You feel that's not enough commitment on the part of the
Why
president?
should he assemble all the DCs in the first place to even deal with this matter? That means he's armchair president. He doesn't know what is going on. He is oblivious to what is happening in the districts because you need to have a supervisory role to deal with them. Now, you know them. You know the districts that Galamsey activities are ongoing. Why don't you call the DC in private to sanction them? But instead, this is a populist way. It tells you that the president is not ready to deal with the menace. He's not ever ready. And he must stamp on his authority and fire and send some of them to into prosecution. All these things, we are not seeing them. And the president will come back and tell us, if you have evidence, bring them. The evidence is very clear. It is visible. When he goes to the Galamsey site, the evidence are numerous. Why is it that he is staying in Accra alone, trying to deal with this canker?
Well, are you expecting the president to move from Accra and be in Ashanti or Western region for some time?
This is environmental terrorism. It is something that is going to affect each and everybody's life. And as a commander-in-chief of the armed forces, you've deployed military men to deal with the matter, yet we are not getting results. You put your president on the line to fight it. Now, you've accepted that the Galamsey has fought you. You've lost the battle. He said it in Kumasi.
He didn't say he has lost the battle. I didn't recall him saying that. He says it's not easy. Those were the words of the president.
He said, no, help me.
Yeah.
But when he was...
But he hasn't said... Let's be on the same page on that. The president never said he's lost the fight against illegal mining.
No, communication has so many dimensions. What he asked Nana to... He extended his hand for help. It means he has lost the fight.
He says the battle is not easy, right? It's not easy fighting illegal mining. Those were the words of the president.
Then he must leave office for somebody who can deal with this matter.
You want the president to step down?
Of course, he must. He has failed the battle against Galamsey. It is clear. He has lost it.
And that's why you want him to step down?
Of course, he put his presidency on the line. And if he wants to be, if he's honest to the people and has conscience to protect, he must resign honorably.
Let me tell you what the president thinks now. The president says, when it comes to the fight against illegal mining, and I'm just quoting from what he said over the weekend, he says we must go bipartisan, bring on board all stakeholders. And he believes that this is the point at which all the political parties, including yourself, your political party, you're not being fair to him because this is the time we need a united front as a nation to fight the menace. You agree that Galamsey, it's a matter of business, so you need every stakeholder to fight it.
But Ronaldo has not extended invitation to anybody. He is claiming that he can solve it. That's why he put his presidency on the line. Had it been he has extended invitation to all of us to come and
You mean the political parties?
not even stakeholders,
Yeah,
right? Because we have mining engineers,
Right.
we have so many people who understands this. Some of our
Experts,
technocrats,
yeah, right.
they are working elsewhere. Some are in America. They do this surface mining in America without necessarily polluting water bodies and destroying the environment. So I was thinking that even in the Kumasi Forum, you should have been experts that can bring on board the divergent ideas, opinions to deal with the matter. But he brought the chiefs who we are blaming for being a part of it, and the government that we are blaming that they are part of it, together. How can we resolve this issue?
Why do you suspect there's that hesitation on the part of government to throw that invite to other stakeholders?
I don't know, because Arnold doesn't want all-inclusive governance. Since he assumed office, none of his policies has he invited any political leader. Even when we are bringing alternatives, he thinks that we are distractors to him. So sometimes, if you hear what the president says, oh, my accusers, I'll put them to shame and stuff like that. So it tells you that he's not willing for us to, help him to solve any problems.
But now the president says he's going to go tough. Of course, he's warned that some of the appointees will not be spared, for instance. DC for Bosomifreo, we understand, may be probed or, investigated by the local government ministry in the coming days. Does that not give you hope that at least, if indeed we're going by your assumption that the president has failed, he's beginning to act now?
I don't think Nanado has the moral justification whatsoever.
Really?
Of course, because the people around him, they are involved.
How?
All the appointees, the party apparatchiks, his cronies, they are involved. That is why the military also don't have the nerves, the guts, the ability to stop it. Because when they go to site, they see that, look, American ambassador recently issued a statement that there's a powerful force behind Galamsey. Who are the powerful force?
It could be the business community, don't you think so? And people who have significant interest, because you do agree, and you've lived in the Ashanti region for quite some time, that Galamsey presents a lot of economic rewards to persons who are engaged in it. So there's a lot of money there.
So who are I'm asking you a question. Who are the powerful force? I'm a businessman, but I don't control authority. I don't have any authority within my domain. It is the president who has the authority. So the inference was on the president. The statement that the American... So the president and his appointees, their cronies, it's just like a cartel. They know.
Are you not exaggerating the matters? Let's take a closer look at the president and all those who are around the president. I'm not sure you're saying all his ministers are involved in illegal mining. The only name that has come up will be Chairman Wontumi, for instance. And for him, he's even contesting the fact that he's engaged in illegal mining. Let me take your thoughts on that since it's come up. He says, well, I've been engaged in mining for some time now. I'm not engaged in illegal mining. You've been in the Ashanti region for quite some time. Well, what do you think about
it's clear. The Minerals Commission has issued a statement that they have not given him the permit to enter that forest. Because even in our mining laws, forest reserves, water bodies are not to be mined. But they have flattered all these laws and doing otherwise. So once the Minerals Commission has come out clearly that Chairman Wontumi doesn't have any permit to enter into that Samana Boy forest, it's clear indication that he has violated the mining laws, and the law must go after him. But when President came to Kumasi, he welcomed him, he ushered him into Ashanti region. So what are you telling me? It means, it shows clearly that the people around him are doing it, but the president is behaving like an ostrich. Do you understand? So for me, the approach, everything indicates clearly that the president is supporting what is happening.
Well, he disagrees with you whenever you bring that matter up because he says he doesn't support.
Yes, opinions are like no's.
Yeah,
but
right.
What I'm saying and the approach to fight this menace is clear indication that the president is not in the position.
Okay, so let's try and get some solutions, right? You've talked about the need for us to completely put a stop or a ban on surface mining. How about the issue of the employment opportunities for many young persons who are involved in this? The belief is quite a significant population of ours in terms of the young generation are also engaged in this because there are no jobs. So how do we find an alternative for all these young persons? And I'm sure you've interacted with some of them. How do we find them some sustainable jobs?
First and foremost, if the president wants to create job for this our up and coming youth, the reclamation program alone can offer so many jobs, because if you look at the extent of destruction, if we want to do reclamation, we engage them to help us do this, and we pay them. So one way or the other, this destruction has created a lot of job opportunities for our youth who were even mining, who were there as casual workers. We can integrate them into this reclamation exercise and reforestation. So for me, it has also created a huge employment this thing for our youth. So it is about the vision of the president. If I were to be the president, right, and we've got into this stage, all that I do is to formulate policies that will reclaim the land and engage the youth to work on those lands, to do reclamation and tree planting and all that. And we restore.
But you agree it doesn't bring the same equal measure of financial reward?
It doesn't matter. What matters most is we are giving them jobs. If you want a bigger or a reward that you think you deserve, you go to other sector. I'm a businessman. No, I work and my work rewards me. So if you think what the job opportunity the nation is providing for you is not good enough, then you look at yourself. But we can't sit aloof for them to destroy our environment under the pretext of jobs. For me, it's neither here nor there.
You are known to be very passionate about this issue of illegal mining. What's your greatest fear?
Look, God in his wisdom created the nature before creating mankind.
Right.
So this nature is the work of God. And we must appreciate and thank God not to destroy it. Why are the pastors who are the representatives of God now has kept quiet over these nefarious activities of illegal mining?
You feel the pastors are too silent?
Have you heard any pastor issuing a statement to condemn this? And they should have been even the frontliners. They are quiet. They are afraid of Akufo-Addo more than God. The pastors, they are afraid of Akufo-Addo more than God.
That's not a fair statement.
But God has given us. But God has.
I mean, these are religious leaders. We don't pay our taxes to them. So if they decide to talk about it, that's fair enough. But if they don't, you don't hold them to account.
Well, I am speaking from religious point of view. They represent God. And nature belongs to God. Not only the people. Nature belongs to God. God in his wisdom created this to serve us and to glorify his name. So if you are ambassador of God and you sit aloof for the properties of the one who sent you, it's unfair.
And the way forward is what we're all looking out for. The UPP, your party, hasn't taken any civil action on this in spite of your fierce resistance and opposition to illegal mining. Many were expecting that at least you go to court or carry out some demonstrations maybe here in Accra about it. Are we to expect something from your political party in the coming days?
Before I came here, I went to see a lawyer. We want to send a petition to United Nations, European Union, IMF. We want this to be part of the conditions, the strings attached.
Really?
To the bailout.
Tell us about that. So you want the IMF not to give us the funds until what exactly? What are you looking forward to from the IMF?
I am employing the IMF to bring Galamsey issues as part of the conditionalities to secure this bailout. This will push the government harder to take decisive decisions to mitigate this menace. Well, United Nations Security Council too must come in, because now you know the devastating effects. I mean what do we call it?
The effects of illegal mining.
The effects of illegal mining. Part of it is have
security matters, right?
No, health hazards.
Right.
Security. Mm-hmm. Now they are possessing a lot of weapons. Right. Apart from that, HIV/AIDS is on ascendancy at these mining areas.
And who is infecting the people there?
Are you not aware that recently Ghana Health Service has come out with alarming rate of HIV/AIDS?
Yeah, but why link that to Galamsey?
The prevalence rate is more over there.
You have evidence to back what you're saying?
Of course. Secondly, it is contaminating our food, the tubers. You are sitting in Accra here, unbeknownst to you, you buy a yam which has been contaminated with cyanide, and you have kidney or any other infections. So we don't want United Nations to come with relief items when epidemic explodes in this country.
So you want them to be proactive.
Proactive.
But I'm interested in the IMF leg, because when you petition the IMF at such a crucial time, where we understand government is leading that delegation to New York as we speak, to try and assess the funds by first quarter of next year, you're making things a bit tough for the president and his government. We need that austerity money. You agree?
The government will meet my petition in New York, IMF office.
Oh, so you're in fact dispatching that immediately?
Straight away. And I want them to be part of the strings attached to the bailout. Because I don't see any seriousness in this government dealing with this canker. So I want external pressure
to come through.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but let me give you that opportunity to speak to the president again. He's your good friend, I believe.
Well, he is my friend, but his inability to fight Galamsey, I abhor.
So speak to him once more.
Mr. President, if I were to be on your seat, I will stamp on authority to put a stop. I'll pass legislation to put a stop using the executive instrument. Then we all come back to the drawing table and assess where we went wrong. But you cannot let this canker going on whilst you are telling Ghanaians you are finding solutions. It's a fallacy. So, Mr. President, just stamp on your authority. Put a temporary hold on it. Let us think of reclamation of what has been depleted before we can also come out with our views. But until that is done, I sincerely believe you are part of the problem.
And that's Akwesi Adai Odike. with the UPP, joining us on our campaign, hashtag No to Galamsey. But we're still sticking with issues relating to illegal mining because Small Scale Miners Association, they are seeking government's backing for its task force to fight illegal mining. The Ghana National Association of Small Scale Miners wants the government to empower its task force to complement the fight against illegal mining. They believe that their engagement will cure the politicization of efforts to address the menace. In readiness, the association has trained over 150 task force members to help stamp out illegal mining activities that have destroyed critical water sources and the ecosystem. Definitely bring you a sense of that report. But for now, I want to bring through Nana Akosua from Poma. She's with the Convention People's Party. I understand the CPP as well is wading into all of these happenings. Thank you, Nana Akosua, for your time here on the polls. So you are asking the president to equally take some immediate measures against illegal mining. What are your demands? Nana Akosua, if you can hear me, I'm just asking about the CPP's position on this.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, great. Honestly, I spoke to the minister sometime and I did make our position and I also gave solution. Just as Honorable Dike is saying, the problem goes beyond just the president. Indeed, I watched a documentary with JoyNews, and what I saw that day is one of the reasons for which I'm sitting here. In as much as it is a problem that we see that government has the authority and power to do something, I honestly think that the hashtag on No to Galamsey should not even be the hashtag. If we really want a solution, it should be something about poisoning, food poisoning, or no water for our children. Something that really would make people get up and act. This whole thing about Galamsey has now become like a slogan or a rhetoric that we don't mean. We just say it. We are using it for politics. The president has asked that we should not be partisan on this matter, that he's asking everybody to get involved and come up with a solution. And I'm hoping and praying that he really means that, because I'm giving them a solution. You see, for all the myriad of solution that has come out, for all the efforts that they did. Initially, when he came in, he banned Galamsey, all the illegal mining or small-scale mining. We all know what happened. Then there was a task force here and a task force there. We saw military men being killed when they were supposed to have gone to do something we don't know. We've seen the documentary that you brought. It is out of hand. At one point, my simple question, how do you send task force to a site that's supposed to have a license, and then that site has military men there, it has foreigners working, and then when they try to arrest the foreigners, the military comes in, releases them, there's confrontation. Clearly, there's no connection. There is some disconnect somewhere that shows that this fight against Galamsey is looking at it as if the fight against Galamsey. It must be a fight for survival. It must be a fight for our children. It must be a fight for drinking water. It must be a fight against poisoning and kidney problems for our kids. It must be a fight against childbirth, having deformities of childbirth. These are the things that we must be discussing. Otherwise, if we don't, we will lose the essence and the importance of what we are supposed to be doing. And that is why I'm saying this. Let me give the government a solution again. I gave that solution to the minister. I don't see nothing else outside the discussion and the limitations that they seem. Everybody seems to be desperate and yet anxious to solve the problem. If they really are desperate and anxious to solve the problem, bring this problem to the doorsteps of the traditional rulers. I, as a traditional ruler and a politician for that matter, understand, and also a social activist, understands the importance and what role, if it's brought to the doorsteps of the traditional ruler, what will happen? Simply because The traditional rulers own the surface of the land. They hold that land in custody for the people of that area. The government, or the president for that matter, has been given the rights to the minerals underneath the surface of the land. So he holds also that in custody in the rights for the people of Ghana. So whatever is found in my village, though the land up there has been given to my grandmother, who has planted cocoa, whatever is underneath there is given to somebody else, or a Chinese person, an Australian, an American, a British, doesn't matter, anybody, by the Mineral Commission or any other committee that has been set by the governments of that day. And for that reason, that clear conflict, that disconnect right there is one of the reasons why we have had this galamsey problem. Even if there's a total ban, like Steve, just as Odike is saying, you will not be able to stop the people who are mining in the water in the night, who run away when the the military or anybody is coming. You won't be able to stop them simply because that land, the surface land, is under the custody and the care of a group that is different from the one that gave the mineral rights. That is the conflict.
Okay.
If we don't address that right away, we will not be able to do it, because even if you ban it, like we saw before, some areas in the night will be mined.
All right then.
And when you do that, when you give it to the doorsteps of the people, and I'll always use my chief as an example. If it's in Doma area, we are talking about Osadifo or Tiadioyo Ajimambedi II. He has the entire Doma state under him. When he calls the people, his people like us, to a meeting, he calls them and says that, Meshemra, free from today onwards, if I find any river, any place, surface land being mined, because people don't mine, they don't use submarines, they bring excavators. It means that they come on the road, they get into a village, they pass through the water bodies are passing in villages. Okay. Every small little area of Ghana is owned by a family, given to them by Osadifo sometime along the line. Okay, and there is no way that if you did that, I give you, initially I said a year, and in a short period of time, a month, 2-3 months, nobody will be doing any galamsey in the country. Okay, so because finally, this tool will be on the line, and my tool will be on the line, the next person's tool will be on the line, and nobody is going to do it. Okay, so finally, what are the next steps for the CPP? You mean that for the CPP in the area of the drinking water? And also the fight against illegal mining. The fight against illegal mining is simple. Just have the political will. Mean what you say. Once you have said it, make sure that is what you do. The first thing is to put some halt. We must put a halt. Indeed, I'm calling every woman hearing my voice, every single Ghanaian. Don't leave it to the politicians or to even the media. Get up and let's fight. This is a fight that is our fight. It's our children and our grandchildren. This is a shame to every Ghanaian. It is a shame to everybody who listens to me to allow galamsey to be going on the way it is. We are talking is like the MCC, the MMDCs, it's the chiefs. It is none of them. It is the leader. Let the leader say today, as he said, I'm making an instrument, I put a halt, and I give everything and bring it to the doorsteps of the traditional rulers. It means that's what I'll do today if we had power. And there's no other way. Everything else is like fighting something, doing the exact same thing, and hoping for a different result, which you and I know is called insanity. We are just going insane, as if we don't know what we are about, because we have been having this discussion. It's now over a decade, and we are now, it's even becoming worse. Look at what happened when your guys got to that place. I was just crying. I said, my God, they could have killed them. And if they had killed them, buried them there, how would we even know? This is not acceptable. And so I'm here to say that whatever Odike is doing, he should continue. But I want the president, if he says he really wants it, and I believe that he meant it when he put the first stop, it's out of hand. I didn't say He can't control it now.
All right.
Give it back to the traditional rulers and let's see what they will do.
All right, then.
And I can assure everybody that if it goes to the traditional rulers, nobody will be doing illegal mining. And the reclamation of the land, let's put the youth to reclaim the land now and let's plant.
Okay.
Let's go back to agriculture. That is the only sensitive and sensible alternative for the youth. You can ask the traditional rulers again, what is the most important or any other alternative thing for the youth in that area? They will tell you. Is it fishery? Is it agriculture? What is it?
Okay.
But definitely not Galamsey.
Right. Definitely. It doesn't have to be Galamsey, and that's why we're running with the hashtag No to Galamsey. You can as well join that call to action on social media with the hashtag No to Galamsey. But for now, let's thank Nana Kosia with the CPP and bring you some updates. Founder and leader of the Heaven Way Church, Patricia Sogah, popularly known as Nana Agrada, as we understand, has been denied bail by an Accra Circuit Court. The controversial church leader is in the grips of the police over allegations of defrauding some members of her church. So let's bring through now Kweku Asante, who's with us here at JoyNews. Kweku, let's get to you first before we hear from the experts on this. What do we know about the reasons for which she's been denied bail?
Well, so according to the circuit court judge who presided over the cases, Anna Samuel Bright Aqua, there is some evidence of some brushes of the law by Nana Agrada when she was arrested a few years back for a similar offense in her money doubling scandal, where she was a priestess at the time, and that even now that she has now turned supposedly into an evangelist, she still has some of these brushes. And so the court, like the judge said, they do not know what next she will be doing if she's released. So the police have charged her with one charge on charlatanic advertisement and 6 counts of defrauding by false pretenses. According to the documents that have been filed in court, it is some members of her church who actually lodged a complaint against her conduct by the police. If you look at the charge sheet, it details an elaborate scheme, according to the police, by Nana Agrada to defraud these persons by such false pretenses.
Do we know when next they are in court?
So the court is set to reconvene 13th October. That is Thursday, where we expect that Nana Agrada's lawyers will put in again another plea for bail, just like she did today by pleading not guilty and asking the court to let her go home so that the case will continue. And so on Thursday, when the court reconvenes, it's expected that the lawyers will put in another application for bail.
And talking about lawyers in Nana Agrada, have we heard from these lawyers? And what's really the argument they've been making, either in court or out of court?
Right, so the lawyers have been telling the court that Nana Agrada is not a flight risk and that if she is granted bail, she will appear in court for the trial to continue. They say that this is a woman that is respected in society. She's a church leader. And so there's absolutely no way she's going to abscond. And so she herself should be granted self-recognizance bail so that she can appear in court. Obviously, the court did not take kind to those words and did not grant her bail. We've been hearing from Nana Agrada herself just before the police arrested her, where she's been explaining that she did not take anyone's money and she did not defraud them. What she said was that the church members just gave an offering from their heart. And so it cannot be under any circumstance that she has defrauded these persons, and that it was just an offering that was given.
So we can now listen to Nana Agrada explain her position on that matter. Kweku, unfortunately, we do not have that now, but I want to thank you for giving us some updates on that. Let's bring in now Richard Kumado, a fraud consultant. Richard, thanks for your time. And of course, we've seen similar cases here in this country in terms of fraud and how people have invested monies into firms where they are not able to yield their dividends. But in this particular case of Nana Agrada, how unique is it? And normally, how hard is it for prosecutors to try and unpack this case?
If you consider the personality we are talking about and the kind of allegations leveled against her, it makes her both vulnerable and a high-risk personality. And that is why you will understand the police wouldn't let her go home. The police, now that they have chosen prosecutorial option, we want to put up a good show by putting the evidence together. And I can agree with the police that says that they needed her more in the wake of whatever has been leveled against her in recent times.
But then for the church members, many of them stranded, what really goes into the minds of these people? That's what I'm even wondering, because someone promises to double your money and you give all your savings to these people. Is it out of trust? And by the statement, and by no means saying that the suspect, as we speak, is culpable of the offences. We need to wait for the court ruling on this. But what goes into the minds of, and then we are creating the case here, people who fall victim to such fraud schemes?
October is a month of cybercrime awareness. And I want to say that adding what has been said so far, it's part of lack of education. People are naive. People are coerced in this particular matter. And people are also curious that somebody did it or somebody claimed to have done it. Let me also follow suit. And because they lack the basic due diligence and the outcome of that due diligence they did not do is what has led them to where they are now. But when it comes to pastors and how they defraud church members, it's an ongoing fight in this country and many parts of the world. And I think it is time regulators will need to sanitize our airwaves a bit more and also educate people who fall victim to religious atrocities.
Okay, so let's start with you. Of course, you have some understanding into this. What should someone be on the lookout for each time they're, of course, giving out money with that assurance that, of course, it will be either doubled, you'd have some form of interest of a sort, a juicy one on your return or on your investments?
Number one, when you are in doubt, you need to check again. And number two, do not give money to people whose grandparents you don't know. And number three, when it looks so beautiful, you will need to pause. And number four, when there's an element of coercion, you will need to slow down. Other than that, you might be playing as a victim and a prey at the same time. And they fall victim because, one, they are naive. Number two, they are greedy. And number three, curiosity killed the cat. And number four, peer pressure and somebody wanting to live far better than who they are for no work done. And these are the schemes, whether online, whether physical, whether in the religious environment, whether in pure criminality. These are the basic tricks they play on the predators who normally want to use. And that is why many people could fall victim.
How long do you see this case traveling, for instance? Because there are some who say it will be difficult now proving if indeed it was a case of fraud.
If you consider how quickly she became an evangelist in the first place, I believe she has been on the police radar, and the police know very well that once you decide to prosecute, then you will be dealing with two things: admissible evidence and inadmissible evidence. Do you have a strong case? Why will you want to make a case at the court when your case is not strong? And they will want to put up a good show. Other than that, we are in a democracy where people are entitled to legal representation. And I can agree with both sides that care will have to be taken. Vulnerabilities have been established here, and we will need to tread cautiously.
What's your advice to people who, of course, go to some of these spiritual churches? I'm being cautious here because I don't want to infringe on people's rights of association and religion, but religion is becoming a conduit for that issue of fraud. What caution do you have for persons who are going to some of these quote-unquote spiritual churches?
I'm a pastor myself, and I have worked in church for many years. I have trained church people and church leaders when it comes to due diligence, from financial due diligence to administration to protocol to security and public safety. Many of the things I have been saying simply sum up: just be cautious and don't believe anything you hear. You will need to probe a little bit more. Other than that, once you make religion a lifestyle, you must also be aware that there are criminals out there who will come to you in the same form. And the Bible said, know nobody by the flesh. You will need to test the spirit. And your inability to do that, you have a personal responsibility.
And that's Pastor Richard Kumado. But I need to say you're a security analyst as well and a fraud consultant. Thank you for your time here on The Pulse. And you're still with us here on the Joy News channel. Still to come, we'll talk about the future of the free senior high school policy. What's next for the policy in the wake of the IMF negotiations? The senior presidential advisor, Yao Safumanfo, has some answers to that.
People have written and have read in the papers, arguing that one of the first things the IMF should look at as they admit us into the IMF program is to cut the free SHS. Let me tell you here and now, we are negotiating with the IMF and free SHS will not be touched.
And you're welcome back. Senior Presidential Advisor Yao Safumafo says government is still negotiating with the International Monetary Fund to avoid a possible withdrawal of the free senior high school policy. Experts are predicting that the flagship program could suffer bad fate when Ghana fully rolls out its austerity plans with the fund. However, Senior Presidential Advisor Yao Safumafo says talks are still underway to ensure what government believes is the best policy option.
There is any sector that we should not touch the expenditure, that sector is education. Because we are preparing the potential use of our resources in a very efficient and effective manner. So if you touch education, you are undermining your whole development paradigm. So that is not the area to go when you decide to cut expenditure. They fund their support base by pointing out the amount of money government would save if the free SHS is abolished. People have written and have read in the papers, arguing that one of the first things the IMF should look at as they admit us into the IMF program is to cut the free SHS. Let me tell you here and now, we are negotiating with the IMF and free SHS will not be touched. We cannot cut it. We are negotiating. The IMF itself as an institution is pro-poor. The IMF as an institution believes in education. So how can IMF ask you to cut free SHS? Don't you have free SHS in America? Don't you have free SHS in Germany? Don't you have it in Europe, everywhere? Most of the developed countries have free high school. We are taking the right path towards development. And I can assure you that the IMF will not touch the free SHS. Of course, somebody has called for in one of the speeches, and I agree. Let us meet to discuss the overall implementation with a view to improving efficiency and effectiveness. And we may realign certain things, but cutting it is out of the discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot be neutral in this debate. I reject as false the argument that the economy cannot support these programs. The challenges we are witnessing in our country is short-term, and we cannot afford to sacrifice our common vision due to short-term economic pressures. We are looking long-term. Then the only policy to be retained by the IMF is free SHS. The debate should be and must be whether or not these programs contribute to the welfare of the Ghanaian and an educated workforce, and will make sure that this country is transformed in a very efficient and effective manner. And that transformation depends on education.
Senior Minister Yao Safumafo, but what's the implication for the education sector, and also what's the future looking like for the free senior high school policy? Joining us now is Kofi Asari. He's Executive Director for Africa Education Watch. Kofi, thank you for your time here on The Pulse. You've heard from the Senior Minister. He says long term, that's the vision. We're keeping the free SHS policy. There's absolutely nothing changing about the policy, irrespective of the IMF conditionalities.
Well, I don't know specifically whether there was a question that he was answering or the context for this pronouncement. But I must admit that this pronouncement flies counter to what His Excellency indicated. We must have a conversation on how to sustain the funding of the program. Okay? And so if we are being told today that by the senior minister, I don't know whether it's still senior minister, that it's a no, then it means that his pronouncement obviously runs counter to what His Excellency said. But I will take His Excellency's statement than that of this.
What do you suspect is accounting for this back and forth about the true state of the policy and what government's clear position is? Because the president in one breath says, well, we're open to the idea about possible reforms in the system. The senior minister says nothing is changing that.
The behavior and posture of government of the Free Senior High School is never surprising to people like us, because we've seen similar interventions rolled out in other countries like in Kenya, in Uganda, which came on the back of political promises, especially the Ugandan one. Very, very politically charged policy from campaign level up to when Museveni won the election, the last election. And in spite of the challenges they faced in terms of the cost on sustainability of the program, because of the political fetishism attached to the program, there is no way you can have a discussion about making the program cost efficient. So I am not surprised at all when the senior minister makes a pronouncement, because his pronouncement is purely informed by the politics of the policy. But the point I want to make is
right.
Anytime a policy is maintained in its form and shape on the basis of politics and not, let's say, social considerations or economic considerations,
right.
One of the key risk factors is that, yes, you can always maintain it that way. You can even decide to buy ice cream for all school children every day. It is possible. There's nothing government cannot do apart from turning a man into a woman. But at what cost? The opportunity cost is that other subsectors of the education sector will suffer. And let me give you an example. According to UNICEF, in Ghana, we are spending 3 times on education for the 20th richest than the 20% poorest.
Break that down for us, because that's critical.
What I want to say is that if you look at our total education expenditure, we spend 33% of our expenditure on the 20% richest households, but spend only 11% of our expenditure on the 20% poorest households.
So which means that the issue about targeting will come up again.
Exactly. It means that we are not efficient in allocating resources, and at the same time, too, we are not equitable in the deployment of resources. If that happens...
But that's the name of the policy, free SHS. When we hear that, the expectation is that, well, it goes across. Everybody benefits from that.
Free basic education has been there for 15 years. Not everybody's benefited. If you go to private schools, you don't benefit from it. There's always a context within which you define the free to make it sustainable. And don't forget that anytime you make something free, the meaning is that everyone must equitably have access to it. Now, if you make it wholesale free, and the poor person is not able to raise their cost, let me give you an example. If you cost a simple prospectus to a senior high school, it will take you to about 3,000 cedis. That is not a fees. The prospectus, the things you are buying to school, your trunk, your mattress, take a simple prospectus from a senior high school, it will take you to about 3,000 cedis. There are some students who are not able to offer that, to afford that genuinely. If you look
so that's another barrier anyway.
Yes, if you look at the Free Senior High School data, 2018, 2019, 2020, as of 2021, there's some 10% of students who are placed by the computer in schools, but they are not able to honor their admission. I've not seen the 2022 data, but as of 2019, 2021, there was that 10%. Okay, the meaning is that by making it fee-free and then providing feeding alone, there still remains some cost barriers to the poorest of the poor. The point I want to make is that it is only when you begin to equitably point resources by investing more towards the 20% poorest and less towards the 20% richest, that you will be ensuring that more resources in terms of the needs of the poorest are provided to them. They may need more than the 2,000 cedis a year fees that we are paying for both the rich and poor under the policy. That's why I want to talk about targeting. People don't get it. That will ensure that indeed, even though it is free, the poor are given unrestricted access because all cost barriers are removed. Let me also finally indicate that the senior minister said that yes, they won't touch it, but then they will review it to ensure that it's efficient. Okay, it is, but then they won't cut the cost. It is not possible to review a policy and to ensure cost efficiency. Okay, without cutting costs. You will definitely end up cutting or sharing costs because cost efficiency or cost optimization simply means that reducing the cost of running the policy without necessarily affecting negatively access and quality. And that is how cost optimization, according to the World Bank and IMF, everyone means. So you will definitely cut some costs by sharing costs with other stakeholders or reduce the cost. But then you do it in a manner that does not restrict its relevance in terms of access and quality.
Well, when you look into that crystal ball, do you see government at some point facing reality and saying, well, we need to give up, we need to open up and do the cost-sharing approach which you've been talking about for some time now?
Well, as an advocate, okay, I have to be optimistic that at a point we have to increase the allocation of expenditure to basic education, to 50%. Basic education has a very high infrastructure gap. There are 5,400 schools taking place under trees. There are 4,000 primary schools without junior high schools, leading to high dropout rate. In the Northern region, for instance, about 30% of students are dropping out between primary 6 and junior high school 1 just because there are no junior high schools. And so there are huge infrastructure deficits. The reason is that there's no cash. Why? Because other sectors of the education sector, including tertiary, are all pooling resources, and secondary, of course. Secondary is now commanding about 25% of the education budget. Okay, so immediately you increase. If you look at the graph, and we are going to be launching an education financing brief next week, Tuesday, at the Kofi Annan Center. If you look at the graph, you realize that anytime secondary education's share of education expenditure goes higher, basic reduces. You understand? And vice versa. So there's a cost to this wholesale application of free senior high school. It hurts basic, and it also ensures that some 20+% of students who shouldn't have dropped out nationally. And if you talk about the northern regions, about 30% of students who shouldn't have dropped out, but should have transited from primary to junior high school and enjoyed the free senior high school, will not even have an opportunity of writing BEC because there are no junior high schools. You understand? So you are still restricting access to senior high schools amongst the poorest who live in the northern part of Ghana because you are overcommitting, relatively to secondary education and denying some aspect of basic education adequate funding. So the opportunity cost of maintaining the policy this way is always the issue. It is never about whether government can do it or not.
Kofi, in the Education Week, of course, stakeholders will be dialoguing on some of these issues. If there's one thing government needs to pull out from the Free SHS program without necessarily affecting their biggest fear of making the policy, let's say, come with some burden to the parents, what should that be? What should we be targeting as a nation?
The feeding component. The feeding component is about 60% to 65% of the policy.
You want parents to provide that themselves?
We want parents who have the capacity by way of data from the Ghana Statistical Service. According to the Ghana Statistical Service, the average household income for the lowest quintile, the highest quintile, that's the poorest 20%, it's about 9 cedis or so. So they are very poor. But there is also data, household data available to the Ghana Statistical Service that says that the average household and then the rich households should be able to afford 4 to 5 cedis a day to feed their children.
In terms of feeding?
Feeding. So government can simply decide that, look, let's use data to begin targeting the policy. It's a medium-term decision government must take. We are not saying it has to be sudden, but you must have a plan.
But the feeding component, you agree, is very essential. Nutrition is essential in the education as well.
Yes.
So
and that's why it's very important for us to take cognizance of the fact that while feeding children in school is important, when those children were in junior high school 3, they were being fed by their families.
How about the argument of uniformity, particularly when you are in the senior high school and the expectation is that you just have 3 years to write the same exams?
So everything should be uniform. If you go to the university,
You tell me.
If you go to the university, there are fee-paying students,
Right.
and there are regular students, and there are distance students. That is not uniformity. That arrangement is there for universities to be able to raise some IGF from the fee-paying students. Then it balances government's contribution. In 2000 or 2019, for instance, IGF alone contributed close to 20% of total education expenditure. A majority of the IGF came from the universities. It's for a reason. Right. So if we say target and let the high-income earners or the average income earner, for which we have data at the Ghana Statistical Service on all households in Ghana, we are virtually saying that spend less on the rich or the average Ghanaian and spend more on the poorest so that no one is disadvantaged. Then at the same time, if you are saving some cash, take it to the northern part of Ghana, where about 60% of primary schools do not have junior high schools. Those students can never taste free senior high school because they don't have a junior high school in their community. They have to commute for about 10 kilometers, and they are not able to do it for 3 years when they are in junior high school, and they drop out. So if you look at the dropout rate in the northern regions and how staggering it is, including UT, it will be unconscionable to keep feeding my children in secondary school when you know I can conveniently afford that, whilst insisting that you don't have adequate money to build a junior high school in a community in the northern part of Ghana. That's the issue. So anytime you maintain the policy in the way that it's currently politically convenient, you will deprive a student in one of the communities in northern Ghana an opportunity to have access to the free senior high school policy, because 60% of primary schools in northern regions do not have junior high schools, and they have the highest dropout rate. That's the point we are making.
That brings up the issue also about the boarding house system that we normally run. Some say if we cut that out in terms of a policy measure and restrict persons to computerized placements that are within their catchment areas, that could also significantly deal with the challenge.
That is another option of having a discussion around reducing the costs. Okay. Yeah. But you see,
the boarding house system.
Yeah, but that discussion is not realistic within the short term.
Why
That's
so? Why so?
I said in response to the senior minister's pronouncement that you can either share costs or cut down on some expenditure, but you can't strengthen efficiency without doing any of the two. I know that reducing the boarding day ratio would reduce the cost. But listen, it is not convenient. It's not realistic to have that discussion in the medium term, because the medium term of government is to expand access to secondary school, mainly through the boarding. Because government has invested majority of the $1.5 billion loan it's acquired to expand free senior high school expenditure, invested it in expanding existing senior high schools. Now, what are existing senior high schools? Existing senior high schools are almost 70-30 boarding day. So you are expanding existing
on that scope, right?
Exactly. So you are not changing the ratios.
Yeah.
You understand? That is government's philosophy of expanding access to secondary school to maintain the tradition.
But then the e-blocks, for instance, if they were functional, I mean, some are functional.
That is a challenge.
If we had gone ahead with those ones, that could complement the system.
That's the challenge we find ourselves in. We find ourselves in the middle of two political parties, and always one in government and one government in waiting, who have contrasting policies when it comes to expanding free senior high school, access to secondary education. Yeah. And until we have a point of synergy, we will keep wasting resources, because should another party come into power and say that I don't believe in the boarding system of secondary education, the boarding should be an exception and then the day should be the norm, they are going to invest in expanding day schools. So ongoing projects in the boarding schools will be halted. It's going to be a similar thing to what we experienced in some times past, where it took a lot of pressure to get government to complete some of the e-blocks, and some of them haven't even gotten anywhere because there was no money. Government will say there's no money. We want to build new schools or expand existing one consistent with our manifesto. If we encourage that, we'll be throwing money away. What I see is that there must be a point of confluence between both the NDC's idea of expanding secondary education through the day concept, which is international best practice. Ghana is the only country I know in the whole world where boarding secondary education is free. I've been to a lot of countries to monitor, to observe their free secondary education policies. It's nowhere. And even in Africa,
maybe it's because of how we've built the senior high school
that's why I'm saying that it's not something that can change in a short term.
Right.
But it's a discussion we must have to see how we can build synergy between the MPP's view and NDC's view, so that when governments change, we don't find ourselves wanting by way of the tax cedi. Other than that, there will be abandoned projects all the time because this project doesn't resonate with my vision. And then we will not be getting value.
And Kofi, that brings to the fore the issue about insulating the free senior high school policy. Do you see that firm sort of support and insurance, if I should use that word, for the free senior high school policy? Do you have fears that, well, if government changes, we have a new political party in power, something else could happen to the policy?
I don't think so at all. I don't think so at all. I think we've gone past that. I mean,
are you sure about that?
We've gone past that. We've gotten to the point where discourse around the free senior high school is around how to improve cost efficiency. You understand? So that's why I am surprised that the senior minister was raising this issue. All the context for that. IMF is, who said IMF is going to cut? We met with the IMF. I was part of the team, the civil society team. I represented the education sector in the meeting with the IMF last week, Thursday. No one is talking about cutting anything.
That did not.
So I don't understand where the
IMF didn't give any posture that they may be cutting some of these things.
If someone is having its own apprehensions, fine. But those apprehensions are born out of, as I say, policy fetishism. It's a whole cloud of paranoia surrounding the policy because it is an emotional...
You feel government is scared about the political cost? And
that's the point. That's the fetishism. Fetishism, the obsession and the emotional attachment to the policy must cease. Because no emotions does not develop or sustain a policy. You understand? Government is overly emotional about it because it perhaps knows that that is one of its strongest legs. I don't know how many legs it has that is standing on. But we are saying that, look, the policy is no more a property of a political party. It's a property of Ghanaians. So let's approach the policy with the aim of improving cost efficiency and sustainability.
Kofi,
because we want to see the policy remain every day.
Kofi, I'm interested in our engagements with the IMF because definitely the senior minister, well, I'm calling him the senior minister, the senior presidential advisor, now I'm getting it right, wouldn't have gone ahead to say, I mean, we're not backing down on this issue about the free SHS, knowing so well that, well, the IMF didn't bring it up. Probably he has information that maybe we might not be aware of. Did you get that posture from the IMF when they engaged CSO?
IMF is not interested in cutting any social policy intervention. IMF is not interested in cutting any social protection policy. Any policy that exists to benefit the poor and marginalized, the poorest in our society, the IMF is not interested in cutting them. But the baseline is that the IMF is not even in the business of determining what government should do. It is government that will present its own program to the IMF. It is not the other way around. Okay, the way things are done has changed. I remember the last 2014 discourse with the IMF. That was a different regime. Now they've changed their engagement strategy. So our government will submit their own, if you like, homegrown policy to the IMF. So if there's a need for government to prune down public expenditure, within acceptable limits or manageable limits, our government will make proposals on where to cut and where to optimize, or where to do the cost optimization. It's not the IMF. So that's why I'm saying that I don't even understand who said the question for this, the senior minister to answer. But so far as I'm concerned, that question is not one being considered by the IMF.
A lot of activities happening this week. In fact, tomorrow as well will be the International Day of the Girl Child. Looking at the landscape and issues of inclusive education and all of that, what's the position of your center, Africa Education Watch, going into the celebrations tomorrow?
I think tomorrow is a very, very significant day for the IDG, International Day of the Girl Child 2022, the 10th anniversary of the IDG. And the whole world is, we are building momentum around reminding governments about the need to enhance improvement in girls' education. In Ghana, EduWatch, in partnership with Star Ghana Foundation and our partners, Ministry of Gender, etc. We will be organizing engagement with government to raise the issue of child marriage as we speak in Ghana. There are about 20% child brides in Ghana. And what I mean is that 1 out of every 5 lady is marrying below the age of 18. In the northern part of Ghana, about 35% of marriages take place, or happen. About 35% of marriages, have girl brides. And the bottom line is that girls who are not educated are more prone to being, participants in this whole child marriage enterprise. So we, as education advocates, are using the power of education to reduce and end child marriage. We are happy that His Excellency the President indicated at the festival, at the conference at the Independence Square last 2 weeks, that he is committing to mobilize resources, not only in Ghana, but also end child marriage in Africa. We are happy to have received such a commitment at that level. And that is why on International Day of the Girl 2022, we will have discussions on the need to strengthen the reporting and then the response system of the state to child marriage. When child marriage issues happen, parents despise their girls. They abandon them because they have refused to accede to marriages that would have been for a family. How is the state building a support system to support such girls to reintegrate and continue their education? How is our social welfare system working? How is the prosecution system, the justice sector institutions work? How are they working together to ensure that we achieve much higher conviction rates, for child marriage cases and all that? So we're going to have a conversation on that, and we're going to be here to
definitely
unpack the issue.
That conversation will definitely happen. But for now, we're grateful that you've been able to spend some time with us. Kofi Asare is Executive Director for the Africa Education Watch. We're still paying attention to the economy because the World Bank wants the country to take the bull by the horn and lead the course to address challenges facing the economy. We can now listen to Pierre Laporte, who's Country Director for the World Bank here in Ghana.
The COVID-19 pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine war has further interrupted Ghana's growth and exacerbated macroeconomic and structural challenges, including debt vulnerabilities and energy sector fiscal risks, which I'm sure many of you have heard me talk about a few times. High fiscal deficits and increasing public debt have now elevated Ghana's country risks, limited foreign direct investment in non-commodity sectors, and increased the cost of finance for many private businesses. But despite these challenges, Honorables, I'm convinced that Ghana can and will sustain its low and middle income country status to become a fully fledged middle income country. The World Bank Group reiterates its continuous support to help in that process. So, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that the World Bank Group has played a significant and positive role in Ghana. Today, we bring approximately $500 million annually in support for various sectors, including roads, energy, water, health, education, skills, governance, name it, to assist to improve the business environment. But in the end, we are only part of the solution. The solution really lies with Ghana and Ghana and its people. We will be there with whatever we can do to support the new thinking, to contribute industrial experience, knowledge and data, and to provide financing.
Well, let's also hear from Chairperson of the Finance Committee, Kweku Kwarteng, who says that the World Bank and IMF network has been structured in such a way that issues that have not been dealt with by both the NPP and NDC can be addressed by the network as we roll onto our austerity plan with the IMF.
The issue about the country's debt stock has become very important because of the current levels and its impact on the larger economy. Therefore, whilst the IMF and the World Bank continue to work on finalizing Ghana's debt sustainability analysis and how that will shape Ghana's program, discussions in Washington, D.C. will try and deal with the issue about how it should also be constituted and whether those on the books of state-owned institutions should be added to the government of Ghana debt. The engagement in Washington, D.C. would also try to look at government proposal on how it plans to turn around the economy. There will also be discussions about government 2023 budget, which will be presented to Parliament in November this year. Meanwhile, the annual IMF World Bank meetings opens in Washington, D.C. today, bringing together finance ministers of more than 100 countries that are members of the IMF, as well as central bank governors. These delegates will be seeking to take measures to deal with threats of global recession and how that would impact on countries like Ghana, and what are the necessary measures that could be put in place to help absorb these shocks that could hit countries like Ghana.
And we'll definitely be monitoring the negotiations at the IMF and bring you some updates soon when we have them. But for now, that's all we have for you here on the Pulse on the Joy News channel. I am Blessed Sogah. Log on to myjoyonline.com. We have updates on our stories there for you. See you.